and it's always going to work better if you have good planning, if you have good organization, good structure to your writing before you start to do it. So let's look at some examples of how these headings work. So here's some APA 6 examples. APA 7 is not altogether that different, but it's a little bit different, but not terribly, at least hopefully not to the degree and the depth that you're going to use it. I probably would suggest that you're probably going to get these level 1 or level 2 headings. It's going to be the most that you're going to get into. Hopefully you won't use a paper that's going to be long enough to use anything more than that. So your level 1 headings, that's kind of like going to chunk up your big sections of your paper, right? So that's going to be centered and bolded. You'll see it again, it's in title case. Level 2 looks like it's title case again, but it's left justified. It's going to be a slightly smaller font. All right, so let's look over at APA 7. Going to be very, very different, very similar to the way APA 6 looks. There's just some ways to think about it. I don't know why this ended up looking like this, but it did. But this is just kind of some ways to think about, or to think. So again, center boldface is going to be your level 1 heading. Level 2 heading is going to be left justified and bold, and again in title case. So not too hard. All right, so another change to APA 7 is APA 7. The APA is a proponent of using they as the impersonal pronoun. So use it for a singular pronoun. So we've got a lot of social change going on right now. There's a lot of people who are finding that they're not comfortable with whatever pronouns, whatever gender pronouns they want. If they want to use they, or if you're not sure, sometimes that happens. What the gender preference is of somebody, just use they. It's easy. It's fine. I know that in the past that has always kind of been a don't use they, figure it out, say he or she. But at the end of the day, it's much easier to write they than both he or she. So they is absolutely fine in APA 7. And then for inanimate objects, you can use this or that or which. No big deal. I mean, we'll get through it. All right, so now the big thing, let's talk a little bit about in-text citations in APA style. I really can't stress enough that if you're using outside evidence, you have to use in-text citations. You absolutely cannot get away with it. If we talk about MLA, what happens most often in MLA is that you're going to put your parenthetical citation at the end of the sentence, and that's MLA. We're done with that. If you're writing an MLA paper, that's fine, but now we're writing an APA paper. It changes. This changes. So when we do an APA formatted paper, either a 6 or 7, it doesn't really matter. As soon as you give the author of whatever the thing is that you're citing, you have got to have in-text parenthetical citation immediately after the author's name. You don't get a choice. Okay? I'm sure there's probably some exception to that, but I'm telling you, you don't get a choice. So it goes right after the author's name, whether you have whether you're giving a direct quote or you're paraphrasing, it doesn't really matter. It all has to go right immediately there. And the other difference is that you're going to have the year of publication in with that. It has to go after the author's name. So let's look at a couple of examples here. So there's some different ways to do it too in APA 7. I'm looking at this slide here. So if you have more than 3 or more authors, you're going to have et al. And so et al is a fancy Latin word for means and all the rest of them, right? So if you're having 3 or more authors, so Jones and Burns and Smith and all these other people, you're just going to put the first author's name, the first person listed in that as the author of that source. Then you're going to put et al, which means, again, is that Latin fancy word that means on all the rest of them, and then the year of publication. All right, so let's look at this a little bit. So in this case, we have David McCullough is a biographer, and I think I've used this one in the past, this example in the past. So in this case, in this example, he wrote a biography of John Adams, the president, and so we're going to see that McCullough in here in red is the author's name. This is the person who wrote the source that we're pulling this information from. And you're going to see that immediately after that in blue, 2001, that's the year of publication. So And then down at the end, we're gonna have, the way this was written out, I put the page number at the end because I could, because I had it, because I knew it was in a book, so it's okay. If it's in a journal article, you're probably not gonna have a page number, it's okay. But if you have a book, we definitely do want to use the page number. All right, so here, let's look at this. It says McCullough, 2001, described John Adams as, quote, so we have a partial quote here. This is a really good one. It's having the hands of a man accustomed to pruning his own trees, cutting his own hay, and splitting his own firewood. Quotation marks, then your parenthetical citation with the page number, and then the period goes at the end after the parenthetical citation. That's the way this works. Okay, so now what we're going to see is we're going to have the same information, but we're going to paraphrase it, and we're not going to have that direct quote. So you see, this is a pretty good paraphrase. It says, John Adams' hands were those of a laborer, according to McCullough. You're going to see that still in red. And then immediately after the author's name, the source's name, we're going to have the year and the page number here. So again, in APA, you must have the year of publication immediately after the author's name. We're gonna do some work with journal articles. I'm gonna have you look at them, and you're gonna see that in APA, sometimes it's almost impossible to read APA papers, to follow along with it, because they have so many in-text citations with the year of publication and the author's names. It becomes really, really hard to read because there's so many of those. All right. Let's get down to this references list. All right, so just like an MLA, you're gonna have, it's gonna start at the top of its own page. You're gonna see that this example that I have here, you're gonna know immediately that this is an APA 6 paper because it has the running head at the top for a student paper. In APA 7, you won't have that running head at the top of the page. But at the top of the page, you're gonna have references centered, right? References is centered. It's called references. It's not reference list. It's not things I studied. It's not works cited, not works, or any of that other stuff. In APA, it's references. That's it. And then you're going to have your entries alphabetized and hanging indented, just like we did in MLA. All right. URLs, now we used to have DOIs, so that's a digital object identifier. We don't do that anymore. Now if you're going to have a link to some kind of a web-based resource, or some kind of resource that uses a URL, you're going to use that. All right, so all of your APA 6 referencing or information about how to do your entries is going to be in your little Seagull. If there are any changes or if you have any questions about it, there's tons of resources online about how to do APA 7 specifics. And I also want to talk to you a little bit, just mention real quick, that the APA, American Psychological Association, has a lot of their information about APA formatting on their website, and they also have a style blog. And what that is if there are specific questions that people have about a new resource or a new source, how do I cite a Snapchat, right? Or because it goes away. Like, I don't understand. How do I do that? A lot of that information is going to be on their style blog. If you have questions, you can go there and ask. And they have a pretty good database or list of questions that people have asked in the past, and so that might be a helpful reference to you if you have specific questions. Anyway, so this is a fairly quick rundown of APA style. I hope this is helpful to you. The main thing I want you to take away from this is that your in-text citations require the date of publication for whatever your source is that goes immediately after the author's name, and you cannot have a source in your paper without it being, or you can't bring in outside evidence without giving credit to somebody with a parenthetical citation. All right, all this information is available in Little Seagull, APA 7 information. I would check Purdue OWL, or you can contact me. I'd be glad to help you. Good luck. Get comfortable using APA 7.